The Atlanta Falcons found themselves right in the middle of the NFL offseason headlines that you don't want to be a part of course, with Jax Ulbrich, the son of Jeff Ulbrich, and the whole Shedeur Sanders prank. But besides that, the Falcons have had a very good offseason, epitomized, of course, by the NFL draft. They went all in on transforming what their defense will be like for, of course, their defensive-minded head coach in Raheem Morris. We know that Jeff Ulbrich comes over from the New York Jets, who have had a good defense the past couple of years, working under, of course, we know, Robert Saleh. But for the Atlanta Falcons, it all weighs on Michael Penix Jr., the talented left-handed thrower of the football, taking him over a number of options that what they could have done, like guys like Rome Odunze, Brock Bowers, the offensive, and paired them with Kirk Cousins. They said, no, Michael Penix can be the future, and they decided we're going to build on defense to get short fields for Penix in the form of a good pass rush. James Pearce Jr. taken out of Tennessee, where he had been productive, and they took Jalon Walker out of Georgia. It's like every Georgia Bulldog defensive player you take is going to be a factor in the National Football League. The question is, though, what roles do they have? Are they just going to line up on the edges? Because you would imagine teams might have some success running the football. So let's go over what the Falcons 2025 season will shake out to be, because they started off with a home game against the very tough Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a team where they might be susceptible to the outside production. Drake London, Ray McLeod, Darnell Mooney can have a big game in this. And my biggest question for Atlanta, of course, is seeing Michael Penix with him. But Kyle Pitts is one of the more talented NFL players that has not had the ship come in, so to say, on his career. Started out with 1,000 yards to his career, but only had one touchdown. It's never panned out. Why has it not happened? He's so athletic. He's the big-bodied tight end guy, like they all are, with the speed that no other tight end has. Can this be a year where he makes a breakthrough to be so effective? I think he can do it against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with that type of weapon over the middle of the field. Poses such a huge concern. Of course, you have to worry about Bijan Robinson coming out of the backfield, catching the football, as well as such an effective runner. He's my number one running back for fantasy next year, and a lot of that has to do with the success Michael Penix Jr. dishing it out. But in the first game of the season, I do have them falling to the Bucs 26-17, predominantly because of how good Tampa Bay's offense is. I talked about first-round picks. Well, Emeka Egbuka, and you put him on that same offense with Jalen McMillan, who had been good, the same Washington player. Penix knows all about throwing to Jalen McMillan, of course, played with him on that national title runner-up team. And then, of course, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, who had the injury a year ago, a 26-17 loss to start the year. But it gets turned in the right direction because they get put on Sunday Night Football at the Minnesota Vikings. Got to win 23-20. How tough is that matchup to be able to try and cover what Minnesota has as probably the best or the second best duo of wide receivers in the National Football League? The thing is, they've got a rookie quarterback throwing to them. It's not Kirk Cousins. It's not Sam Darnold having a Cinderella year. It's a rookie quarterback that's going to be learning the offense. So we got to see J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix Jr. in a national championship game rematch. Who's excited to see that? Can Michael Penix Jr. get his revenge on J.J.? I think he does, because of good defensive back play from A.J. Terrell. Of course, there's Jordan Fuller coming over from Carolina, Jesse Bates from Cincinnati, who had been one of the best safeties in football, Mike Hughes from Detroit. Like, they're building around a number of these guys. Like, they have also Leonard Floyd on that front, who's going to be able to mentor and help out Jalon Walker and James Pearce, who are very similar body types. Floyd's a little bit like thinner of a build. He's taller than those guys are, but putting him up there in that rotation of three guys at the main edge spot. Of course, there's Morgan Fox is like the main run stuffer coming off the Chargers. So a win 21 on the season before a road game against the Carolina Panthers. And before you click off this video, and I've mentioned a couple of like mistakes, it's because when you're watching this, I'm in Africa. Like, I'm in Africa right now. I came out with this video a couple weeks in advance, so as of the recording of this, I don't know about any injuries or anything happening. So if I bring something up, it's because it hasn't happened yet, and I wanted to get some momentum before the season comes out, pushing content that's scheduled to post couple of weeks prior because I wouldn't be able to make it all happen in Africa. A road game at the Carolina Panthers, have them losing 20-24. This is a tougher matchup than Atlanta fans are going to think of because Xavier Legette is one of the names people just don't know in the National Football League. If you don't know college football, who had been good with South Carolina, just a freak athletically, 6'3", 225, be able to stretch the field. And you add to that offense, of course, the nature of Adam Thielen always being able to find a soft spot in zone, and then the red zone guy, Ted McMillan, the 50-50 ball wide receiver who poses just a mismatch basically against any cornerback in the National Football League now, in Chuba Hubbard. Like, that is a good Carolina offense who will take a step, believe this upcoming season with Bryce Young continuing to improve. Don't think Carolina is going to be better than like 7-10-ish, but have the Falcons losing to Carolina in week 3, 24-20 before a home game. This will get you smiling if you're an Atlanta fan. A win against the Washington Commanders at home, 28-27, and one of the more fun games of the season. Michael Penix gets to take on Jaden Daniels from the same draft. Both of these guys were in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. Of course, Jaden took it home, but Michael Penix had such a productive and fun season. Of course, we know all of the storied careers they had as college players and putting up all those huge numbers. We get to see the matchup. That's what's fun as a huge college football fan, is getting to see it translate, to see these matchups once again, or to see them for the first time we didn't get to see in college, like Washington not playing LSU. We got to see the Commanders against the Falcons and Michael Penix Jr. in a win, putting the Falcons to 2-2 before the bye week. So not a bad start with a big win and momentum. It's just a tough game off of the bye at home against the Buffalo Bills and, of course, the reigning MVP in Josh Allen. Buffalo is very good in the red zone. Why? Because of Allen's legs and James Cook, as well as they're putting two tight ends on the field. Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid form a top 5 tight end duo. There aren't a lot of teams that have like tight end very good duos, and this is like the team that's setting the tone for that, to be being able to cover both of those guys, as well as the big bodied 6'4" Keon Coleman on the outside. Buffalo can always move the football, but it's in the red zone where you stop them. It's the type of game where maybe James Pearce or Jalon Walker learn something or two. But these guys are plenty athletic enough. So is Leonard Floyd to be able to run with Josh Allen. He's just got a little bit too much talent. And a loss that moves him to 2-3 on the season after an entertaining, fun Sunday night game, 24-36. At the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday Night Football. Look, the Falcons are perceived as a bit of darlings in the sense of some of these bigger games. The second Sunday night game playing at the San Francisco 49ers, and they can thank the Denver Broncos for taking Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga. Like, those guys aren't there anymore, which opens up opportunities in the middle of the field for Kyle Pitts. Like, you would have a safety, Hufanga, being able to cover on Kyle, or Dre Greenlaw running with him. Maybe it'd be Fred Warner, depends on the side that he's lining up on. Greenlaw's like that strong side linebacker, which would go to the side of the tight end. So typically that would be the side of Kyle Pitts, match it up against Dre Greenlaw. He's no longer there in San Francisco. The Niners don't have Buckner and Armstead anymore. They don't have Leonard Floyd. This is a game that they can win. I think the Falcons are actually starting to catch up roster-wise compared to a lot of these teams you may have seen them behind in the past. Moving to 3-3 on the season before a home game against the Miami Dolphins. This is tricky because as of saying this, Tyreek Hill is very unhappy as of like right now with the Miami situation. Of course, Achane and Jalen Waddle, they have a great offense. They have the Dolphins losing to Atlanta. Just a great performance. I can see Penix throwing 4 touchdowns, Bijan running for 1. Terrific balance for this team. And Tyler Algier, putting him in the red zone. People forget about Algier being there, of course, from Bijan and his talent. They get that win, move to 4-3 on the season before a road game at the New England Patriots and a new head coach in Mike Vrabel. New England's going to be a lot better. I actually consider New England and Atlanta to be very similar roster talents. Love their head coaches, both of them typically like defensive-minded, tough, hard-nosed, don't want to turn the ball over like any coach does, but really preaching that, being one of the particular principles because of that defensive mindset. don't turn the ball over, and we're going to take the ball away so we can set ourselves up to be in tight games. We're going to not be trying to drop 30 points. Like Michael Penix, the key thing is move us down the field, let us play defense, don't turn the ball over, but be yourself as a gunslinger. Have them losing to New England 28-18, getting to see that Will Campbell, another LSU guy that Penix gets to see, that was a high draft pick. The New England, they drafted Kyle Williams. Of course, there's Christian Gonzalez in the secondary. They have talent amassing in the backfield. Seeing Travion Henderson against Bijan Robinson as a running back matchup is a bunch of fun. 4-4 on the year as they fall at Gillette Stadium to the Patriots before a home game in Berlin, Olympic Stadium, against the Indianapolis Colts. Indianapolis just doesn't have any threat at the quarterback spot. Anthony Richardson has proven that he struggles to throw the football down the field. Riley Leonard is a rookie coming into the league, and many don't see him as a potential starter in the NFL. Have to see more if he gets a potential opportunity as a starter. And then Daniel Jones, we all know what he has been. This is a type of game, 20-13. Think that Penix can struggle somewhat. What I don't like is that the fact that they have to play in Berlin and then the Panthers, it just shapes up to be tough that they don't have a bye. I have them losing. I've got a number of teams doing that as well, like the Denver Broncos, who are playing overseas and then don't have a bye. I've got them losing to Carolina for the second time of the season, which might shock you somewhat. You might be upset if you're an Atlanta fan, but they fall to the Carolina Panthers, dropping that game. Before they have the Saints at home, Michael Penix, another terrific performance. This is the type of game where he can air it out. We get to see him go up against, of course, Tyler Shuck, presumably the guy in New Orleans. They don't have Michael Thomas anymore, and it's Kalen Moore's first season as the head coach in New Orleans, expecting a ton of struggles in New Orleans, and maybe even them looking at a quarterback at the end of the year once again in the draft. But a blowout 40-17 win against New Orleans before they are on the road against the Jets. A lot of wins, a lot of losses followed this. Like Atlanta has work to do as a unit, like offensively putting it all together. I see them being a pretty good defense, holding teams, but when they need Penix a bit of that consistency, have an expectation that it might not be there every time they call upon it. So a loss at the Jets, 17-20, is what I have dialed up for them at that point. So they would be 6-5 on the year post Jets loss, in a position where it's okay, maybe this team can get to the postseason, still 6-5. That's not a great loss, but okay. Heading home against the Seattle Seahawks, they got to win 19-13. In that matchup, it's Bijan Robinson against Seattle, keeping the ball just out of anywhere in the vicinity of Nick Emenwari and just trying to limit the impact of what Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp have. That backfield's good in Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker, but that is a very good underrated duo. They have insanely similar skill sets in those wide receivers, who's on the outside to be that threat for Seattle, but have them beating the Seahawks 19-13, leaning on Bijan Robinson before a massive Thursday night game. We talked about them being darlings in the eyes of the NFL next year with Penix. Of course, why not? The Bucks on the road, Thursday night football. Going into that matchup, they would be 7-5 at that point. I got them with a win, moving to 8-5 on the season, 34-24. It's a game where Penix just has, again, success. To have that consistently being streaky, him coming down, back to earth. Raheem Morris's defense is able to turn it around in this matchup against Tampa Bay, being able to keep Baker Mayfield contained from having a monster performance to his talented wide receiver core. Then it's just those AFC West teams that they face later in the year. It's dropping them to 8-6 on the season. A loss against the Cardinals, and Arizona is talented this year. They really went into the defensive side of the football, invested in the future at defense. A number of those guys being high draft picks, like Will Johnson. People thought he would go way higher, people were saying top 5 last year before some of that knee stuff came about. And Jordan Burch from Oregon, Michael Penix knows a little bit about facing off against Jordan Burch. Of course, Penix went 2-0 against Oregon in that, sixth year he had against them in a big win. 7 or 9.5 point underdogs in the Pac-12 champ game, and they are able to win that game relatively easily. But they do lose to the Arizona Cardinals 26-24. Kyler's able to pick up some big plays down the stretch. McBride, Harrison, it's a very talented offense, of course. And then a game against the Los Angeles Rams on Monday Night Football. It's tough. Los Angeles is my best team in the NFC next year, trying to limit Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. And then on defense, it's an assault on these younger players, and Young and Fisk and Verse being incredible talents at such a young age. It's just very rare to see that. And of course, the veteran ability of Matthew Stafford. He'll give you one. There's no doubt about it. Like, you can find a spot, like he can throw a big pick in that game, and it just might not matter because they can have 3 drives in a row where they're putting up 7 points on the scoreboard. A loss 34-17, 8-8, comes back to a win against the Saints at home to finish off the year. They beat the Saints for the second time of the season, 30-13 overall. Penix puts them in a spot like they'll be right there in the wild card chase. Like, if they wound up 8-6, like as I have it here, you'd be like, man, they're so close to being a playoff team. Go 2-1, 10-7 most likely gets you in. Not sure what it will just wound up, how it shifts. There's some of those teams that I've got around here, like Arizona, got them being like 9-8, have the Chicago Bears being a 9-8 team with the improvement and new offensive style of play that they'll have there. But 9-8 for the Atlanta Falcons. Let me know in the comments what you think of the Atlanta Falcons going into next year. I'm a big fan of Raheem Morris and what he's going to be able to do. I think he can have a lot of success. And in that division, there can be way stronger divisions. Like, Tampa's got that offense that you can poke holes in that defense that they have if you're able to establish a run on the edges, because don't run it up the middle, and find a way. If you need a rush 2, rush 3, find a way to limit what they can be as an offense with all of those weapons on the outside and the gunslinger and Baker Mayfield. But 9-8 on the season. Let me know, of course, what you think of Tampa Bay, what their season is. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content coming out in the future. This was a bunch of fun to watch because Penix was such a talent in college, so to cover him and what his career becomes in the NFL is just a true joy, because the way he throws the football is incredible. It's just pure art. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Thank you.
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blunder, hi everybody, I'm Josh Blunder.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa to the 20.